World Trade Center, basically 40, 42, 39 by 74, double lot 46. And the elevation here is fairly flat, but the water acts as a physical barrier. The bridges act as funnels, restricting. And this all narrows and tapers. I want to show you something on Utah. Looking at the Pentagon, the center is here. That's at 3852.16 by 7703.22 degrees. Its elevation is about 30 feet. This ascends up to 40 feet. This is Arlington. Its high point is about 206. This freeway overpass here, the high point is about 130, but really all this terrain down here is 30 and ascending up to about 60 feet up in here. This is the land of the living. This is the land of the dead. This elevation here descends from 40 feet down to about 10 feet, and then stays 10 feet and comes back up to about 40 feet through here with a high point of 60 feet in here. Hold on. This ascends from about 10 feet up to about 30 feet. I've zoomed out here. Alright, here's our land of the living. Here's Arlington, the land of the dead. Here's the grand mediator. You have this water as a barrier. Think of these as funnels because they restrict flow, right? Okay, the bridges. I'm going to show you some similarities between this World Trade Center and the Mountain Meadows scene. This is the actual site. We'll zoom in a moment. These terrain here blocks you in. This all acts as a funnel on both sides here. This is ascending. This is descending. This funnels in like this. If you're running and trying to escape, this is all like 10%. This is the creek. Okay, hold on. Of course, here, or at the World Trade Center, is when things ended, but at the Pentagon, it was the laying of the foundation when you would say things were officially established. You have these low hills, just like at the Pentagon. You have this kind of land of the living and land of the dead. Here they're growing wheat. Hey, you know, they're growing wheat here. At the Pentagon, they've got the homes on one side and the cemetery on the other. Here's the cemetery, and here's these people farming the land on which these people were literally murdered right up in here. Something else. The Pentagon's name is the devil's anus. I've heard, you know, the devil's butt, but, you know, it's the devil's anus. Okay, these are the hills from which they were fired upon. This is Dan Sill up here. I believe this is where the original California road came through, which means they should have been camped in here somewhere. The actual killing took place up in here, and it seems to me it would have to be on this side. When you read this stuff, it sounds like it's over here, which doesn't make sense. Anyhow, we're going to zoom in on this stuff. So this location is 3738 58 by 1133806. That's actually right here. So hold on some more. Memorials here. These were the hills I was just referring to. Dan's Hill is over here. These hills were used. If we understand the description correctly, John D. Lee walked between two hills. It had to be these two hills here or these two hills here. It could have been these two hills here if this is the California road. In any case, the elevation down here is 5,600. Here it's about 5640. Here it's 5750, 5750. So you can see this, and this, if you go over here, this is to the west, rapidly climbs. Here we're at 5,700 along, 5,700 along here. Okay, just a little bit more. Everything I'm showing you, the Mormon hierarchy knew when they brought them into this place. So what you have a series, this funneling action here, ascending landscapes this way, hills hemming you in, a creek impeding your progress. And this was all used to create a slaughtering ground. So what does that have in common with the Pentagon and the World Trade Center? So the Mormons own this land and they farm it. When bones were found here, the Mormon took possession of them and then had them reinterred. So they own and control their own slaughter field. What these three have in common is a date. 9/11, 1857 for the Pentagon, 1941, and 2001 in New York. They all have this same constricting landscape. Mountains in place of an ocean. Bridges restricting, like this restricts here. When these people are trying to run, first of all, they're walking this way uphill. So even if you go this way, you're being restricted. And don't think there wasn't somebody sitting down here. All right. So what you have is this constricting landscape. And again, it has these kind of constricting environments around it. I don't know what the significance is. I mean, obviously you can see it, what the advantage is here if you're, trying to fight somebody or kill somebody. Both the World Trade Center and this happened under a full moon. I'm not sure about the Pentagon, but it wouldn't surprise me. You got a full moon in the morning. And for this to work here in Utah or in New York City, you had to be able to control information flow. Now, if you've watched World Trade Center, you know those arguments. But here I'm telling you that Brigham Young controlled information flow. And this was carefully controlled, and they were carefully protected, and I can't get into this here, by their friends, the Freemasons, and primarily in the form of a person named Thomas L. Kane. Of course, here, or at the World Trade Center, is when things ended, but at the Pentagon it was the laying of the foundation when you would say things were officially established. So John D. Lee walked into this camp carrying a white flag, promised them peace if they would surrender their arms. They were led to believe the Indians were attacking them. They didn't believe the Mormons were attacking them. They would never have surrendered their arms that way. You see, just as if at the World Trade Center people make the same allegations, that it wasn't the diaper-headed troglodytes with rusty razor blades that attacked. It was somebody else very sophisticated that knew how to do this, not the diaper head. So what I'm getting at, you're the perp, but you're using a less sophisticated people as an allegation of violence. Same thing at World Trade Center. You're saying these diaper heads came in and did something with rusty razor blades. And when you get down to it, it doesn't work. So what we have are similarities in date, the full moon, time. Made a big issue of the physical terrain being an inhibiting, restricting force with certain physical characteristics. This is a close-up of the actual scene. This is where the site itself is. And these are the hills. So they have a number of physical characteristics and some interesting strategic characteristics in terms of control of information flow and being able to blame a person who really has nothing at all to do with the event. This is also used, this event, in the context of fighting the U.S. government. The Mormons were preparing, and Brigham Young had just dismissed a fellow by the name of Van Fleet and basically told him to shove off, we're ready to fight. And at the same time, this is happening. Right here, this is happening, basically. And the Mormons want to claim that, oh, they were oh so scared. But these are the people that were going to fight the U.S. government. And they couldn't keep these Archies out. The Archies were a big threat, but they were going to fight that U.S. government. Think about that in terms of World Trade Center events. And it's pretty interesting, if you ask me. Motivation force for Brigham Young is establishment of empire. You got a false flag operation, black psyops going with misinformation to all the people about these evil people coming down the roads. That's false information. You have a false flag with John D. Lee. You have the similarity in the constricting environment. You have threats of external terrorism coming in, either in the forms of the U.S. government or these Archies, these 145 people or so that, that came down through Utah and were killed. And then you have the media flow through the oaths. The Mormons swore oaths of secrecy, and these are blood oaths. And you'd be killed for divulging this information. John D. Lee describes this stuff, and so do other people. So the secrecy of oaths, control of media flow, a motivating force, disarming people, external threats of terrorism, full moons and the date, you know. It's probably just me though.